thank you for joining us this evening on this rather miserable evening in London. But I'm glad we've come here because I think with the state of the Middle East, inevitably I think we're going to have a very interesting conversation this evening. And I really can't think of a more interesting guest and speaker to have here this evening than His Excellency Hamad bin Jassim Al Thani, who I think is known to many of you here as one of the most experienced hands in events in the Gulf, but I'd say even beyond that, the Middle East, and beyond the Middle East, even into Africa and into the Near East as well. Sheikh Hamad had the position of, I think, holding position of Foreign Minister for 21 years, and the position of Prime Minister as well, held concurrently between 2007 and 2013. And during that time, it was the time where people, you'll remember, sir, described Qatar as, well, certainly punching above its weight. It was punching in many directions at the same time, and you were the person leading. This is why I have back pain. This is why you have a bad back pain. If he's sitting here looking very serious, it's not just because of the situation in the Middle East, but because he can't move too well. But I'm glad we're not making you stand up at a podium, but having a conversation. Sheikh Hamad was involved in mediation efforts. I was taking a look through here, but Djibouti and Eritrea, Sudan and Chad, Yemen, Lebanon, of course Yemen, here we are again 8 years later after you were last involved in trying to resolve the situation between the Houthis and the central government. Obviously the Palestinian situation, Syria. You've really played up the role of Foreign Minister. And what we're going to do this evening is have a broad conversation on the record where we'll have the broad theme that was listed for people visiting us here this evening of the Middle East and North Africa after Iran. But in fact, I think the context obviously is going to go much broader. We have the tragic timing of this meeting taking place in the wake of the terrorist attacks in Paris last week. So the issue of Islamic State, Daesh, will clearly be a major issue for us to want to cover. But what we're going to do is, rather than speeches here, we will have a conversation, and I will engage Your Excellency for about 20 minutes or so. We can maybe go through a few points, and then we have a great set of guests and participants here who I'm sure will want to raise their own topics and questions and maybe pose even more trenchant questions than I'm able to do in our conversation. What I wanted to maybe start with is not start with Paris. I think we will come to Paris in a minute. We will come to the implications of these dramatic terrorist attacks in Paris and potentially the risk of them going beyond. But I thought it would be good to start with the main topic here, which is of how the Middle East is changing. Is it changing after the Iran deal? Obviously, Qatar, Iran, very proximate neighbors, sharing, I suppose if that's the right word, a very important gas field. To what extent, if I may start right from the beginning, do you think that this deal really is transformational? And is it transformational for Iran as well as for the region? Where do you think the transformation or the change is going to be felt most immediately? Is it in the diplomatic relations? Might it be in the economy? Just give me a feel for how this deal is seen through your eyes.
First of all, I would like to thank you and thank all the guests which they are here. It's my pleasure again to be here. I believe the deal with Iran, it is an important deal. And I also believe, and this was our policy from the beginning, that we should have a peaceful deal with Iran for their nuclear capabilities. And maybe this is the first time I said, I deliver maybe the first message to the Iranian about the problem of the nuclear issue from the West side, specifically to try to solve it within 6 months without going to all this dilemma. And I have to say I have not a good reply, and it does not work at that time.
When was this, roughly?
This was during Khatami time, beginning of Khatami time, and there was not the beginning, 3 or 4 years before he leave power, because I did not went to Iran after, during Khatami, last 2 years of his presidency period, because there was a very interested conversation when I was trying to talk to him about the nuclear, and then I decided not to. Before, traditionally, I go 1 or 2 times to Iran. It's a big neighbor. It's important, the policy of Qatar, to have a good relation with Iran. And we was sincere in what we are, the message which we deliver it. And as we say, don't shoot the messenger, you know. But at that time, I've been shot in my foot everywhere when I was in Tehran. So it's okay. Anyway, that happens. It's the same when I went to Saddam before things happen, and I told him he have to leave.
You keep trying.
Yes, I keep trying. It might work. Maybe it was not good policy, but we've been sincere in our policy. But if we go back to Iran deal is very important for the region, for the stability. I did not believe for a single minute that the military option is the solution for this. I think the military option will complicate the situation. I know some of the countries in the region, they would like to have a military option. I did not have. What I did not agree, that there was 5+1 in the negotiation with Iran. It should be 5+2. And the number 2 is the GCC countries. We are the closest neighbor for Iran. We will be the first people affected, bad or good. And I think the West, the American, they did mistake. They did not join the GCC in this discussion. Now to go on to discuss with Iran, I always respect the Iranian. And I know that they are very clever negotiator. You know, I did a lot of negotiation with them, and it is not only they're clever and interested to learn from their school how they negotiate. They negotiated now with the West for almost 20 years, this deal. And if it's a country in the Middle East, you know, it will be 2 weeks, either there is a deal or there is a war. And this, they drag it for 20 years in a clever way. Whenever you heat the ground, they cool it. When you cool it, they heat it. And always when you are fed up with the face, they change the face, they bring you a new negotiator. So they please you for a year, and you start again and again and again until they find that this is the right deal. Which, you know, I have to say, we have to raise a chapeau for them in this.
Do you think they... I've got 2 questions. Let me start with the first one. If the GCC had been the extra +1, 5+1+1, would the GCC have had a single position on the negotiation?
No, they will have a single position because it will be different than the GCC talking to Iran direct, because there is 5P and there is plus Germany. So it's a different situation. But in my opinion, that will be an added value for the stability and for the region. Now to tell the GCC, okay, we have the deal with the Iranian, go and talk with them again. So if we go, if it took you 20 years to finish the deal with the Iran, it will take us 40 years minimum to reach a deal. And the Iranian, why they do a deal with us now? If I'm in their place, what is the reason? There is no reason to do a deal now. And this is one of the mistakes with other mistakes from our ally and friends in the region. Less consultation, but I don't want to blame all the time our ally. I blame also the region, the GCC. We have also different opinions in many issues, and sometimes nonsense, you know, and that's why also you have problem to convince us or to take from us one opinion. If you go to the 6th country in the GCC, you might have 6 or 5 or 4 opinions, but not less, in a serious matter.
You say why would Iran do a deal right now? Let me just raise one issue too. What do we mean by a deal? There's the security dimension and the kind of role that Iran is playing in the security context, from Syria through to Iraq, etc., Yemen, and there's the economic situation. Now, you're highly experienced as well on the economic dimensions of policy and foreign policy. Iran's economy is in a mess. They have however many tens or even up to 100 billion perhaps that might be unfrozen. I've heard Gulf leaders say this is their war chest, they're going to use it to, you know, make even more instability in the region. But surely Iran also needs the Gulf, potentially, to get out of the economic situation. The United States is not going to lift sanctions in a clean, quick way anytime soon. Do you see any opportunity here where Gulf states, if they could get over some of the worries about security, do have economic leverage vis-a-vis Iran?
Well, there is a paper I did in the GCC. I think maybe, I don't know if during Sheikh Mohammed time, I did a paper of cooperation. The Gulf countries include Iran and Iraq after Saddam. Saddam that time was in power. I think 2001, 2002, I did a paper for the GCC. It does not work because everybody does not like that things. And I said, let us start with them an economic organization and try to build a trust. Because I believe the cooperation with Iran. But if you say now, okay, there is the security issue and there is the economic issue, true. But there is another issue. Dominating areas in the GCC area from the Iranian, that's something not accepted by the GCC and irritate any leader in the region, that the Iranians sometimes try to interfere in different ways in the GCC. You know, look what happened in Yemen. If I go for a minute in Yemen, because it's related. You know, when we did the deal with the Houthis and Ali Saleh, it wasn't in favor of Yemen and the GCC. Most of the GCC at that time was against the agreement. And Ali Saleh stopped it because some countries in the GCC at that time, they saw that this is not a good agreement and they accuse us to be, you know, with the Houthis, which it's not. We don't know them, actually. And we know them when we start negotiate the deal with them. And the deal was there. And my friend who died recently, which is a very clever Dr. Ariani, which I admire him, he was with us in the deal. And we reached a good deal, giving all their weapons, accept to go to democracy and to vote through the democratic channel, agree about the state. That one, we should build in it. Then we will not have this problem. But instead, Ali Saleh was playing with everybody as a chess in Yemen with all other, you know, tribes in Yemen, and this is the result. The result is interference of Iran for no reason. Houthis, yes, it's part of Yemen and part of the Yemenis, and they should have their all right like the others. But Saudi Arabia has been threatened in their border because some people will say, why the Saudis, they interfere? We can agree in something, we cannot agree in something, but they will be threatened if they did not do anything. You know, Syria in a fire, Iraq in a fire, Yemen in a fire. What do you want the Saudis to do? What do you want? You know, I believe they have to intervene in a way, at least to show their teeth to the Iranian and the others. Okay, we want to be friends, we will be friends, but there is a limit for that. You cannot intervene in every place and we just make a dialogue. Because the Iranian, their policy always, that they don't mind to do a dialogue with anyone. But the dialogue, this is, you know, could take ages. And with the clever people and with the others, they need to do a deal, and they are not. You know, your mentality in the West, you put your cards on the table and you try to do a deal. You think that you win in 2 points, you lose in 1 point, and you finish. That's a different. It's a bazaar mentality. It's a long history. It's a civilization, and they know how to do a deal.
So what you're saying, if I hear this rightly, is that whatever the economic incentives might be, they're not going to work right now, given the interference that Iran is involved in across the region. There's just too little trust amongst, in particular, the Arab countries, and in particular the GCC.
And don't quote me. I believe.
We won't quote you.
No, I believe that We have to have an excellent and good relation with the Iranian. But both sides have to know the red line for the other party.
And what is the red line in that case on the GCC side?
Don't interfere in my own affair.
Yeah.
I don't interfere in your affair. We make a cooperation in the security and economic. You know, there is a lot of education could be done between both sides. There is a lot of skill in Iran. There is a lot of wealth in our region. The Iranians need to build their countries. There is a lot of investment could be done in the Gulf. A lot of opportunity to be done without dominating one of the, not us to dominate Iran and not the Iranian dominating us.
I've heard the Iranian point put the other way, which is, well, you're interfering in our space. You broadly, yeah, Sunni countries, movements, fomenting some separatism in some of the border regions of Iran is one of the accusations that's made. They feel vulnerable around their own periphery, should we say. Iraq, you said Iraq's on fire. You added that as a part of the list of things that Iran were involved in. But Iraq is on fire more because of Daesh. Yes, and the Iranians ultimately, as I understand it, have been trying to stop the spread of Daesh.
It's because also Iraq being given to the Iranian in silver plate. You know, they destroy the army of Iraq. They destroy all the political governments and all the other political bodies in Iraq. And they want to start from scratch.
Let me bring one more theme in, and I think we'll come round to get some questions and comments in. Perhaps one of the reasons it's so difficult to take advantage of the deal and the opportunity the deal is meant to offer is because you and other leaders in the Gulf don't trust that the US has your back anymore? Is that part of the problem?
What is the opportunities in the deal for us?
The only opportunity I could imagine, as I said before, is an economic opportunity, not rather than a security opportunity.
How? Did you have an agreement in that, how it will be done? It's not there.
So you see no opportunities full stop?
No, I hope there will be. But in your agreement, there was only one thing to be sorted out, and you sort it out, and I'm not against it. But politically, intelligently, you should add other elements to that deal, in my opinion. That's my only point.
But if I can stick with the US for the moment, do you think the role of the US in the region, a guarantor of security for the Gulf states for a long, long time now, has that eroded, in your opinion, is this part of what makes it difficult for the Gulf states to be in a
I think
negotiation?
this role is being changed with the new administration, not the new, this is their end, they have 1 year and 1 month more. But this administration have different priorities. And this is their own fare. I think we suffer in the Gulf for the last 15 years from 2 administrations. One, I call it high voltage, and one low voltage. I hope now we have somebody in the middle who can make the balance. We don't want you to guarantor more than what we need to cooperate together. All the time, the acts which you take, you inform us so late that that's it. And you say we cooperate. That's not a cooperation. That's notice being given to us in many actions or many policies in the region. And that's, I think, dangerous for your friends in the region. And I believe, okay, I know we have our own problem in the region as your friends. Also, we have to sort our problem among us in the GCC. There is many problems, many challenges among us in the GCC. We have to sort it out. But we need to sort this out, but we need this relation to be more clear, more stable. I think, or the normal people, they think that because the United States have enough oil, they have no interest. That's the normal people of our region. This is how they talk. And I think this is very bad, because for your reference, that if you have somebody secure your energy, secure oil, and in line with your policy for 60, 70 years, and you just sell them out immediately when you are ready, or you already have other needs or other priorities. It happens not only with us. You know, look, India and Pakistan. You know, India was with Russia, which country I love, India, and I respect them. Pakistan was totally with America. And look, the shift happened many years ago with no notice for the Pakistanis.
You come a lot to Europe, London, Paris, you know Europe well. Where do European countries fit in Gulf security or Gulf futures? Are they bit players, side players? Are they central? Obviously, there are security relationships, there are basing relationships, including in Qatar. But when you look at Europe, do you see a region that's too consumed by its own problems or ones that can be a partner?
You are, sometimes I feel that you are also victim for the policy of the America. Because in my opinion, sometimes when I see, if I take a small example, the donators, Europe is the biggest donator for the Middle East in many issues, for the Palestinians, for other countries in the Arab, North Africa and Arab. And you don't have the same say, pro rata to your share of finance here. And I think that was bad, because the intention of Europe is more close to us. We can more understand each other's. Because of the history, we are more close to each other's. And I believe we need to talk more together. I know Europe cannot solve the problem, our problem alone. You cannot, you don't have the capability. Now, unfortunately, people think to raise the security aspects in Europe because after what happened in Paris, and I think this is very wise, because due to your budget, since now 15, 20 years, you are reducing your military personnel, police personnel, and now you feel that if you have problem, you don't have enough police to be in the streets. And this could happen, unfortunately, because of the terrorists, which we can see how they can brutally act in the street. So I believe Europe, they have to have a say. They have to have more dialogue with the GCC. Look, now, since 25 years, we are talking about the economic agreement with Europe. We did not achieve it because every time you change something else in it from your side. But can we do it alone without the American? No. But both of us, if we are in line, I think we can convince the American, because the American, we are not shy to say that they are our ally, they are our friends, we like them, we need to cooperate with them, we have to cooperate with them. But we have to say if there is something wrong.